Live from downtown Detroit, Local 4 News at 5 starts now.
He didn't deserve to die.
I have lost the other half of us, my partner, my supporter, the future we had planned together.
A heartbroken widow solemnly addresses the man who killed her beloved husband, killed in a high-speed chase.
But we begin with a story that could redefine your rights as a homeowner. The Michigan Supreme Court rules even sitting in your car in your own driveway while drunk constitutes drunk driving. Thanks for being with us for the news at 6. Can you get a DUI in your own driveway?
Yeah.
Well, that was the question asked of the Michigan Supreme Court after a Northville man was ticketed for just that.
Tonight, those justices said the answer is yes. We bring in Mara McDonald. Mara, the issue is whether state law extends from the roadway into your driveway.
Exactly, Devin. Here's the deal. Let me boil it down. If you're in your car and you're on the road where we are right now and you're behind the wheel and you blow over the legal limit, you would have no expectation that you were safe. You would expect a ticket. Here's the deal. What if you were seen in your car over the line in your own driveway at your own house? Do you have any sort of protection then? Court says no. The driveway DUI case had been ping-ponging between courts, finally ending up in front of the Michigan Supreme Court for a final decision. At issue, a Northville man busted for DUI for driving in and out of his garage. He never left his property. Police were called to his home on multiple noise complaints and watched him. They later found his blood alcohol to be 3 times the legal limit. Tonight, the court says, yes, you can get a DUI in your driveway.
When you're drunk in your driveway, you think you're going to go somewhere. You shouldn't be behind the wheel, period.
Does it bother you that he was in his own driveway?
It doesn't bother me that he was in his driveway, but I feel that if he was in his driveway behind the wheel, he could have went somewhere else.
Here live, what those justices had to decide is whether that driveway was reasonably accessible to other vehicles. And they decided it is. Devin, Kimberly, back to you.
Mara, we did have some dissenting voices, though, on the court.
We did. This was not a unanimous decision, Devin, and they were concerned with exactly what you said off the top. Property rights. Does this infringe on property rights? But the majority of the court says no.
It's a fascinating debate. All right, Mara. All day, this has been, as you might expect, one of the most talked about stories on our Local 4 Facebook page.
Yeah, it is. Let's get a look at some of the reaction. These are just a few of the comments. Elaine says the vehicle has a motor and the man drove it. That is drunk driving. I think he should get a stern warning, but this is going too far. Trisha writes he was drinking, he got into his vehicle, he was thereby operating a vehicle under the influence of alcohol.
All right, we're now on the scene of breaking news on Detroit's east side. An elderly man has just been injured in a hit-and-run crash.
Jason Colthorpe is there live on the scene with the latest. Jason.
Yeah, this just happened, guys, just a little while ago. Detroit police are on the scene, but investigators to recreate the accident, not just yet. We're right outside of Mack and Bewick Market. It's at the corner of Mack and Bewick. They have cameras on the building. Police are looking at that. However, there's been damage to the one you see right there. You just saw it on the side of the building that would have been looking right at it. Instead, they had to go off another camera. So all they really know is this was a white Chrysler, or I should say a white minivan. One witness I talked to thought it was a Chrysler minivan. It happened right over here that hit a 71-year-old man that witnesses told me was just barely off the sidewalk. Hit him right here. He spun around and got hit twice, and the car sped off that way going down Mack. Now, police are on their way to the hospital to talk to this gentleman to check on what his injuries are right now. They don't know how serious. There's no blood, but witnesses say he had internal injuries. He was knocked down again. He's 71, so obviously he had to be hurt a little bit by this, and he had difficulty getting up. So that's where police are at right now. If his condition is much worse, you'll see a lot more investigators out here trying to recreate what happened. But as of right now, white minivan hitting a 71-year-old man, taking off. And that's the situation right now on the east side. Send it back to you.
Okay, we'll check back in with you as you get more information. Jason, thank you. Developing right now in Washington, Senator John McCain made his way back to the Senate floor today, his first public appearance since being diagnosed with brain cancer, and he received a hero's welcome. Take a listen here. The senator returned to the floor to cast a critical vote opening up debate on the repeal of the Affordable Care Act.
And let's move now to that all-important vote today. The margin was so thin, Vice President Mike Pence was forced to make the tie-breaking vote. So now the debate is going to move forward in Senate to repeal Obamacare. Question is, what is in it? No one really knows exactly what's in this version of the repeal. Blaine Alexander breaks it down from Washington. Blaine?
Devin, for Republicans, it came down to the wire. Now they can move forward to decide exactly what Obamacare repeal will look like. For Senator John McCain, a hero's welcome. Back on Capitol Hill for the first time since his brain cancer diagnosis.
Mr. McCain, aye.
His vote today, crucial for his party to move forward with health care, delivered with a passionate message to his colleagues.
What have we to lose by trying to work together to find those solutions? We're not getting done much apart. I don't think any of us feels very proud of our incapacity.
Today's procedural vote, a turning point that would allow the Senate to even begin discussing health care.
Many of us on this side of the aisle have waited for years for this opportunity and thought it would probably never come.
Lawmakers can consider three options: repeal only, repeal and replace, or something else altogether. A rare gallery protest interrupting the Senate floor proceedings just as the vote began.
Turn back. We can go through regular order. We want to work with you. We know that ACA is not perfect, but we also know what you've proposed is much worse.
President Trump pushing from the sidelines, tweeting, "Big day for health care. After 7 years of talking, we will soon see whether or not Republicans are willing to step up to the plate."
And the motion is agreed to.
The final vote, 50-50, with Vice President Mike Pence breaking the tie in Republicans' favor, officially opening the health care debate. And President Trump praised Senator McCain for coming back to cast that vote. In the end, only 2 Republican senators voted no. In Washington, Blaine Alexander, Local 4.
All right, Blaine, an interesting side note here. The push to get this passed was so important at the White House. The vice president made an appearance on an Alaska TV station on their local news to try to push the bill. Alaska is significant because of Senator Lisa Murkowski, a Republican from Alaska, who voted no today. Well, it isn't a life sentence, but a 31-year-old man is going to spend the rest of his life in prison for killing a man during a high-speed chase in Orion Township.
Crash killed 75-year-old Rio Doctor in July of last year. A crash so bad, the engine and transmission were found hundreds of feet away from the van he was driving.
As Nick Monticelli reports tonight, this man, Rashid Brown, showed a lengthy rap sheet and was running apparently because he was caught in the act of doing something else.
Doc didn't deserve to have his life in this way, without warning, without mercy, without reason. Such a violent end to a beautiful person.
Rio Doctor had a lot of friends. This one, a buddy from their time serving in the Air Force. And the more friends and family you have, the more people you have missing you once you're gone.
He was energetic, very active, and involved with family and friends. He loved life and lived it.
Doctor's widow, Deborah, stood up in front of a packed Oakland County courtroom to let everyone know her 75-year-old husband just retired from GM, and they had a lot of plans.
I have lost the other half of us, my partner, my supporter, the future we had planned together, the father of my children, Grandpa and Papa to our grandchildren and great-grandchildren.
Rio, though, was killed in July of last year by this man, Rashid Brown. A jury convicted him of second-degree murder after a high-speed chase that sometimes went 95 miles per hour. Brown slammed into the back of Doctor's van, killing him almost instantly. Oakland County deputies say he was involved in an illegal prescription drug ring, and when they caught a friend in the act at this CVS, he took off from the parking lot. The crash was at the intersection of Walden and Baldwin in Orion Township. It was so bad, the engine in Rio's van landed 150 feet away.
Doc was a beautiful soul and respectful to others. All those that loved Doc and might have loved him in the future have been immensely cheated by his absence.
Brown also had his chance to speak and apologized.
I'd just like to apologize to you all. I never, ever intended for this to happen. I don't even have no recollection on what happened. I'm pretty sure he was a great man to you all, and I'm very sorry for taking the life away from you guys.
Despite that remorse, though, he was sentenced to 100 to 150 years in prison. And on top of today's sentence, Brown already had a very lengthy rap sheet, including 6 felony convictions and 4 misdemeanors. Those definitely played a role in this lengthy sentence. In the newsroom, Nick Monticelli, Local 4.
Nick, and the judge also took the time to point out that despite his convictions, Brown never attempted to do any probation, and that too played a role into his sentencing.
A woman is in the hospital tonight after crashing into a semi while riding her bike. Happened today at 3rd Avenue and Temple Street near the Masonic Temple, Midtown. Police say the semi was making a right turn onto Temple when the woman who was riding in the bike lane ran into the truck. The bike was crushed under the semi's wheels. She is in serious condition at this hour. Police say it is still unclear to them just who was at fault.
In Livonia, a search is underway for a tip jar thief.
And we've got the evidence. Take a look. This man, the suspected of making off with the employee earnings at the Jersey Mike's on Middle Belt Road near I-96, happened Monday. If you got any information or recognize the man that you see there, you're asked to contact Livonia Police. Just getting started here today at 5.
Yeah, much more ahead coming up in this next hour of news, including a Michigan State police trooper suing the MSP over something he believes should have been kept a secret. We'll have that, and we'll show you what one city is doing to make sure they have the best spot to view next month's total solar eclipse.
And a Michigan high school football player collapses and dies in the weight room. What we're learning about this tragedy hitting the tight-knit town of Grand Ledge in just a minute. Hey, Ben.
Devin, temperatures inching up, but that humidity is still low, and that's going to set the stage for a fantastic night. We'll see how much more of the week looks like this coming up in a few minutes.
You can see right there the front porch is starting to sink. The problem, it's this sinkhole that's growing bigger every day. Last year, the city of Taylor was out here, said we'd take care of it, no problem at all. But now that story has changed, and we want to know why.
When you put new at 6.
And you almost gave up your child's life for it. Don't go out and buy another gun, okay?
A mother gets probation, a lecture, and a lesson from a judge after her son shoots himself with her gun, and his message wasn't just for her.
Also, it's a question more parents are asking these days. How dangerous is the game of football? A new study reveals some of the strongest evidence. Dr. McGeorge explains what experts have found.
Some breaking news just into our newsroom from Detroit. This is 17-year-old Jalen Wilson. In the picture here, police believe he was kidnapped this afternoon at 12:30 from the side of a home on Westwood Street near West Warren Avenue. Police say the teen was taken by 3 men in an older model silver Impala or Malibu that was being driven by a woman. If you have any information, contact Detroit Police.
They say the city of Taylor has only made things worse. When the problem was first reported last year, the city agreed to cover all the cost to fix the sinkhole that you see here.
But now a big change is creating a potential legal battle. Our consumer investigator Hank Winchester is in Taylor tonight with more. Hank.
You can see right there the front porch is starting to sink. The problem, it's this sinkhole that's growing bigger every day. Last year, the city of Taylor was out here, said we'd take care of it, no problem at all. But now that story has changed, and we want to know why.
I don't want to have to worry day in and day out if my house is going to blow up.
The sinkhole next to Patty Patton's Taylor home is creating big problems and big stress, and she blames the city.
So they came out, they looked at it all, they're like, this is our responsibility, it's wastewater, it's not part of your responsibility, we'll take care of it.
But then months passed and nothing.
Obviously, I want to know what's going on. So I'd been down to the city 2-3 times, I've called 100 times, left messages. No one's calling.
Suddenly, the crews eager to help were gone. What happened? Well, here's what happened. The city realized it had made a huge mistake.
You know, I spoke with the engineer, and that's when I was informed of it, and I just told him make sure it's on public property before we move forward with all this.
Keith Bach is the DPW director. He wasn't on the job yet when this problem was first being investigated.
We can't spend taxpayer money on private property. We just can't do that. And unfortunately, that's the situation.
So let's get this straight. Last year, Patty was told the city would do all the work and cover all the costs involved. But because someone didn't do their job and make sure the easement is actually owned by the city, Patty is now on the hook for a project that could cost thousands of dollars. Not only that, remember, this has been dragging on and on for months.
But you can understand why she's upset.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You would be too.
Well, I would understand that you can't spend money.
No,
you can't spend taxpayer money.
No, you would be angry if the city said to you, "It's our problem."
You can't say that. I work for a
start.
city, so I know the circumstances different than
I
other
would
people.
be angry.
Here's what the city can and will do. First, an investigation is underway to determine if the easement can just be dug up and covered. It may not be needed. If it is, the city will work with contractors to help get the very best price. Finally, and if it comes to this, the city will work to divide the costs with other neighbors who could be affected. So the problem doesn't just have to be Patty's alone.
Tough for me to kind of go through these things.
Back out here live at Taylor DPW, a few things to point out here. This communication that took place last year, most of it was verbal. There's not a big email exchange, but the city does admit fault, saying that the information given to Patty early on, it was just simply incorrect. But the city cannot use taxpayer money to fix what they now believe is a private issue. We're live here tonight in Taylor. Hank Winchester, back to you.
And do you know whether or not Mrs. Patton is considering legal action as an option, Hank?
And Kimberly, Devin, it is a possibility. We're going to stay on this one. We want to see how the city works with her moving forward and what the total could be here. But there is the possibility that this is a battle that could end up in court. Back to you.
Yeah, certainly is a mess indeed. All right, Hank, we appreciate it.
We bring in Ben on a really lovely day.
Yeah, he's the man of the hour.
Bill,
I mean,
how about that?
The humidity.
Well, I was going to come out here and dab, but I don't think I know how to do it.
Look at Ben Bailey.
That's as close as it gets. But I'll tell you, it's fantastic out there. Not only the temperature's in line, humidity is low.
Oh, it's dab worthy.
Go ahead.
Should go work on that instead of the forecast. Let's take a look at current temperatures, which are right around 80 degrees out there. But with that low humidity, it is very comfortable and just enough sunshine mixing with the clouds to make it look nice out there. We will see temperatures continue to rise as we get later into the week, but this is the real story. This air is incredibly dry. Anytime you see 50-degree dew points in Michigan in July, you're living right. You start getting into the 40-degree dew points, and that's just bone dry, especially for this time of year. Usually we only see those dew points as we get more into the late fall and early parts of winter. Now, as far as the rain goes, some folks say, hey, we desperately need some rain. Other folks say not so much, and everybody's right. Look at the differences here. Lapeer has gotten more than 2 inches above normal, and this starts, by the way, meteorological summer back to June 1st. But Pontiac, just south of there, is below normal. Then you get down to our south zone. Morenci about 1.5 inches above average. Adrian is 2 inches below. Not only are they in the same zone, they're in the same county. So you can see how much of a difference we have in areas here in southeast Michigan as far as that rainfall goes. But not a lot on our plate. The rain that's trying to make it over the lake, just not having a lot of luck. In fact, it really is going to be just this one chance this week, and that's going to be coming on Thursday. So we get through the rest of tonight dry, mainly clear with that very low humidity. Perfect sleeping weather outside. Few extra clouds tomorrow morning, but most of the day is going to be at least partly cloudy. We will see these showers and storms stay north of us on Wednesday night, and then we'll get our one shot as we get into Thursday. As far as low temperatures go tonight, not quite as cool as what we went through last night. We'll be right around 60 degrees in the city. South zone temperatures get a little bit cooler, especially out there in Lenawee County at mid-50s, slightly milder out here towards Lake Erie. West zone lows tonight, mid-50s generally across the area, and just about the same here once you get north of M59. Mid-50s is what we'll wake up to tomorrow morning. By the way, there were some spots that started in the 40s briefly before that sun really warmed us up. We'll get to 84, and that humidity will come back tomorrow. It's going to be a very short window where we'll see that spike. Wednesday into Thursday is pretty much the only time we're going to be dealing with humid conditions. And then the humidity drops on the other side of those thunderstorm chances on Thursday. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday look fantastic. 78 low humidity. Then we get the low 80s, but it's all sun-filled for that 3-day stretch.
Yeah.
So if you
gorgeous run.
Got some sick days, need to burn.
Take them.
Friday looks like a good day to
Love the idea of planning for sick days. I know how that goes. Yeah.
All right, let's check in with the doctor. Doc.
Well, what do puppies, hedgehogs, and baby goats have to do with your health? Coming up, see why health experts are turning to cute animals to teach Americans about a serious, often silent affliction.
All right, Frank, but first, tragedy near Lansing. A high school football player dies during a preseason workout. We'll have that story next. Across Michigan today, we've got stories from Grand Rapids and Bay City.
But we begin with a tragedy unfolding in Grand Ledge. That's just outside Lansing. That's where a high school football player has died after participating in a team workout. Incoming freshman and 14-year-old Everson Guild passed away Monday after working out in the weight room at Grand Ledge High. The superintendent says Guild lost consciousness during the football session and that he was given CPR and first aid on the scene.
He had actually was finishing a lift at that time, and he was there was other boys that were around him spotting. They were around him and immediately alerted myself and the other staff members.
No official cause of death has been released. A Grand Rapids area woman is facing murder charges in the death of her infant son.
22-year-old Lovely Johnson has reportedly admitted to police that she did not feed her 6-month-old son for 2 days while the boy was strapped in a car seat in her apartment without any air conditioning. And the baby was already dead when she took him to a hospital last week. Johnson has pleaded not guilty, though, to the murder charge. She's being held right now without bond. In Bay City, a former Bay County golf course pro has been given probation to pleading no contest on embezzlement charges. 39-year-old Brent Goik admitted to taking part in a scheme to sell phony golf course memberships. If he spends a year on probation without incident, Goik can plead guilty to a misdemeanor and avoid jail time. Goik blamed the scam on his ex-wife, who likewise pleaded no contest and is serving 5 years on probation.
New at 5:30.
Abandoned on camera. A days-old newborn left in a strip mall parking lot.
This looks like one of those great livable neighborhoods in Metro Detroit until you see this. Uphill, there's a big blob of poison. This is a monitoring well for chemicals that could be causing problems in the neighborhood. The residents are angry about it and want to see something done.
All right, Rod. And first, a Michigan State police trooper is suing MSP all because of a story he told in secret, what it is and why it's raising new questions about privacy and addiction. That's next. A Michigan State police trooper says he's being discriminated against because of a story he told, but it's how he says his superiors found out that's leading to new questions about addiction and privacy. One of the key sayings in Alcoholics Anonymous is what you see here, what you hear here, stays here.
And in fact, it's that secrecy that helps those in recovery share their stories. But when Michigan State Police Trooper Craig Tour shared his story in an AA meeting, he claims his superiors found out and then declared him unfit for duty. Mara McDonald following that story for us tonight. And Mara, not a cut and dry case by any means, is it?
No, Devin, there's a whole lot going on here, and it starts at that AA meeting. What Tour said is that some of his colleagues in his unit were on a training session and they were drinking and driving state cars. That's the start of this. It's what happened to him after this that is the basis of this lawsuit. Craig Tour isn't an alcoholic. He's got a doctor's report that says so. He says he's not. What he will say is he attended AA because he was concerned his off-duty drinking was getting excessive.
But again, my client, of his own volition, went to AA. He wasn't ordered by anybody. And all the doctors have said, he's fine.
Except one, a doctor out of Chicago hired by MSP. But the alcohol issue is just the start here. After somebody at Tour's AA meeting reported his comments to the state police, an investigation got underway into his colleagues in his unit. Tour came forward letting his superiors know his comments at AA were likely the impetus for the investigation. MSP then launched an investigation into whether he was the source. And Tour's life at work, he says, became miserable. He filed EEOC complaints and was then declared unfit for duty. His union backed him up, and he's prevailed at the EEOC and at arbitration. And now he's suing for discrimination and retaliation. Tour is barred from speaking to the media about his case, but his attorney Jim Fetz says this is what he wants you to know.
Despite what command might say, you are an individual that has privacy rights even if you are a state trooper, and that the agency is not above the law.
Back here live, as you might imagine, the Michigan State Police, well, they see this whole thing very differently. They tell me tonight that tour has absolutely not been discriminated against, that they followed all their procedures, that they followed the rules of their collective bargaining unit. And as a matter of fact, they're going to defend against this vigorously. We're in Van Buren Township. I'm Mara McDonald, Local 4.
Wow. Okay, Mara, thank you. A man walks into the Niles Police Department and admits to killing his girlfriend.
He said that he wanted to he'd committed a crime and wanted to turn himself in. Certainly they began running his name thinking that he was turning himself in on a warrant. And then when they didn't find a warrant, they had the detectives come out to speak with him. And that's when we learned of this incident.
Today, that man, James Huffman, was arraigned on an open murder charge in the death of Angela Culver. Police were were taken to the body late Monday morning. They believe the victim was strangled to death. She'd been in the home throughout the weekend, but the motive for the killing right now is unclear.
The state of Michigan and Ford Motor Company have settled a ground contamination case. Local 4 News first brought you back 18 months ago or so. It's been dubbed the Boston Beacon Project. It involves contamination at the Livonia transmission plant. And while the state has settled, it's anything but settled with the neighbors. Business editor Rod Maloney is live tonight. And Rod, just kind of bring us up to speed. Tell us what this is all about here.
Well, it's a consent agreement that's been entered into between the state and Ford Motor Company, and they're going to be paying about $45,000 to the state for costs that they incurred out here trying to do the monitoring. They're also going to have future monitoring. But the neighbors here are quite upset because they say, look, we have our own legal action pending. They didn't even know about the consent agreement, and now they're looking to move forward on their own. Look closely at the lawns on Wadsworth, Beacon, and Boston Post Streets, and also Belden Court, and you'll see these monitoring wells. You'll also see testing crews drawing water from the monitoring wells. Dennis Tenniswood is the Neighborhood Association president.
The problem is uphill there's a big blob of poison and it needs to be cleaned up. That's what we want done. We have issues here. We need to get it taken care of.
Ford installed dozens of these that go down nearly 25 feet into the ground, checking the soil and the ventilation for chemicals like vinyl chloride used to make plastics and trichloroethylene, a grease solvent they stopped using a generation ago at the Ford Livonia transmission plant. Ford discovered the problem in 2014, spent the last couple of years trying to assess the distance the chemicals moved in the Alden sub east of the plant. Tenniswood waters his lawn with tap water, fearing a well would be disastrous. And he bought his grandfather's house in the neighborhood because he loved the country setting.
I used to ride on my grandpa's shoulders picking mulberries and eating them. And now when my grandson comes over, we just have to walk by the mulberry tree and I don't even tell him what they are.
Ford put out this statement today about the Alden sub situation, quote, "We will continue to work closely with the city of Livonia and the MDEQ to address the issue. Importantly, all samples collected to date show no health risk to residents and drinking water is not at risk," end quote. Now, Ford is on the hook to try and clean up this mess at some point. And in the meantime, the residents are getting together on Thursday night. They're getting together with their lawyers to figure out their next step because they're not part of the consent agreement. Reporting live in Livonia, Rod Maloney, Local 4.
Okay, Rod. Well, by now you've probably heard something about a big solar eclipse coming up.
You know it. In fact, now less than a month away. Ben joins us now to tell us how one city in the path is preparing, as most of the cities that are in that right line, that sweet spot, are doing.
There's a very small portion of the country that's going to get really packed here next month. That city that we're talking about is Paducah, Kentucky. It is in that narrow stripe that's going to experience complete totality. This is the picture of the eclipse track. That path of totality begins, it's just south of Portland, Oregon, and it's going to split the country diagonally from the northwest to the southeast before it passes off the east coast over Charleston, South Carolina. That entire process is only going to take about an hour and a half from west to east. The city of Paducah is one of many cities that is gearing up for the big day on August 21st. Business owners are preparing for the onslaught of tourists, not only to serve them, but also to make sure that their lights are turned off during the eclipse. In fact, the city's working with the power company to make sure that street lights remain completely off when the skies darken during totality. Nobody's power is going to be turned off, but they're asking everybody to voluntarily not turn on their lights. So this is going to be a very interesting debacle to see how many people actually are going to be traveling to this very small
Exactly.
path.
I know a number of folks who are wanting to make the trip. Yeah. Exciting. All right, Ben. As we start to enter the dog days of summer, keeping kids busy during the week for some finds is no easy task, really.
Yeah, but the folks at Eastern Market, they've come up with a solution. Photojournalist Alex Atwell takes us to a special cooking class just for kids.
What is barbecue? Who knows?
I know. Life is like barbecue sauce.
Well, yes, life is like barbecue sauce, sweet and sour in equal measures.
All right.
I loved to cook as a kid. Why I became a chef is because I was a kid who played in the kitchen, and it's good to foster that passion and pass it along. Go ahead and mix that around with this fork. We have here at Eastern Market our community kitchen, and on Tuesdays during our Tuesday market we are hosting cooking classes for kids. Today is barbecue day.
Cook barbecue sandwiches.
What makes a good sandwich? The balance of flavors.
Why do you like to cook?
Because it's awesome.
All right. Oh, I love this. Little Chefs of the World upcoming.
It's like making music, right? All the different components that make a song. And in the same way, you want to think about food that way, of the sweet and the savory and the sour. It's all that stuff that makes food a good experience.
We all need to eat.
Yeah. And I just try and have kids take away some bit of confidence in the kitchen.
Yes, independence, and shows that you can be very independent.
Burgers.
Yeah. Oh! Does your mom make burgers?
No, my dad.
Oh, your dad does? Oh, okay.
And I work with people in the kitchen in the adults classes who are terrified to touch the food, who are terrified to do the wrong thing, and to be able to break that sort of feeling of food as this very exclusive skill early is what I really want the kids to come away with. A couple of nice big pickle slices right on there. That look good?
Yeah.
We left with the knowledge of I can do anything in the kitchen.
It's great. Confidence in the kitchen gives them confidence to do other things as well.
This is better than learning algebra. This is something that you're going to use, right?
Exactly. You'll never go hungry if you know how to feed yourself.
And life is like barbecue sauce, sweet and sour in equal measure. There's your wisdom for the day. It was one of the biggest events of the summer, and this year it's set to be better than ever.
New tonight, we'll reveal the act set to headline this year's Arts, Beats, and Eats. Hi, Doc.
Hey there, so what do puppies, hedgehogs, and baby goats have to do with your health? Well, the CDC is betting you're going to want to find out. I'm Dr. Frank McGeorge. Coming up, I'll show you the new public service announcements you'll actually want to watch.
Okay, Frank, but first, he pulls up, puts something on the ground, and then takes off. Why police say a father left a newborn baby in a strip mall parking lot. Next.
Jeopardy is